Thank you very much, Peter, for that warm and kind introduction. It's a privilege, and I say this genuinely, it is a privilege to be here at a world-class oval in the best city in the world, and to be at the Adelaide Rotary Club is a genuine privilege, and I'm delighted to see some familiar faces. It's great that Walshy's here, and thank you very much for your ongoing support, Jeff, of all that we do together with Operation Flinders, and I think we've had a couple of wins along the way. It's nice that we have Operation Flinders royalty in the house in Steve Larkin, someone that was one of our volunteers not that long ago, walking all over the Moolaloo station. And I have to mention, and I'll touch on football in a moment, but I have to mention as a young man, and probably even still, I don't have much to offer any environment, and my wife will support that. But if there's an SANFL trivia quiz, I am your man. To the point that I can tell you who the best left-footed full forward for the Cert under-19s during the late 70s was, Michael Francis. And it's an absolute travesty, Michael, that Paul Bagshaw kept you out of the league team. Paul who? So for those of you that don't know, I played a couple of games out here pre-development, and a very proud Sturt person, delighted to be a life member of the Blues. So it's nice to be in an environment where I could say I got knocked out there and I nearly got a kick there and I ran out on the ground there, but fortunately I didn't get too many possessions. In fact, my friends say I'm the worst ever 100 gamer, so that's not a badge I carry with honour. But I'm here to talk about Operation Flinders, and I'll touch on something else at the end of that. So some of the story you've heard about the relationship that Adelaide Rotary Club had with Operation Flinders, I'm aware of. Having only been in the seat for 3 years, I'm blissfully unaware of a whole lot of stuff. So I'm sure there's one or two of you that want to pull out of your pocket, well, why the hell didn't you do, or my answer will be, I don't know. I don't know what happened. So what I can tell you is where we are today and where we're going in the future. And I'm very conscious that you have some particularly illustrious speakers here. So my ambition is to have most of you awake by the time I'm finished. So if I could just lay that as a lowering of the bar for me. The organisation's been going for about 32 years, and it was founded by a lady called Pam Murray White, who had a military background and an education background. And I think I'm okay in saying early on it was about tough love, maybe a bit boot campish, but certainly really strong in its direction in terms of the way young people were treated and the outcomes they were hoping for. We operate from a facility about 700 kilometres north. For those of you that are familiar with I don't think that's mid-north, that'd be far north. If you're going towards Lee Creek, you go through Lee Creek, then you have Copley, we'll turn off a little town on your right. Right at Copley on a dirt road, left about 40 k's in for another 30 odd k's, so whatever that is, 50 or 60 northeast of Lee Creek. And it's genuine, hardcore, outback, red dirt country. I was there Friday morning last week. And it is quite beautiful for its silence. So the experience that becomes so real for me, a city boy, a very privileged city boy, is to wake up to silence. And it's a beautiful part of the world. And what we do is have teams of 10 from schools that the school chooses that meet a criteria of behaviour that you don't want in your children or grandchildren or their partners. So recidivism, truancy, addiction issues, challenges with authority, challenges with relationships, those sorts of behavioural traits, just about every one of our young people has them. And some of them have those traits in spades. So the 10 people are driven up to Yankonina, our station, dropped off at a pre-designated point where they see on the ground a ground sheet, a backpack, sleeping bag, some plastic, which they turn into a hoochie, and some other bits and pieces, like cooking utensils. They're told, right, empty what you have in your bag into the backpack, put that on your back, and we're going to hike about 100 kilometres up and down mountains, or what we call mountains, up and down mountains, and across a very challenging terrain. And in that time, this is what you're going to experience. You're going to come off sugar, because as we know, every 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old, 17-year-old, our sort of sweet spot, has a massive amount of sugar in their diary. So you're going to have a withdrawal of sugar. And the other thing that you're going to experience that'll be equally challenging, you're going to come off social media. Right. There's some familiarity with social media. And for the young people that we're talking about, their communication into the world is through their phone. Having 3 teenagers myself, and if anyone wants a 17-year-old daughter, just speak to me after. I've got one that I'm a year at the most is what I'm talking. Just pass on, and 2 sons either side of her, but their phones are their connection point to the world, and their social connection, and their source of information, their source of entertainment, their source of everything. So that's the first thing that happens to the young people once they're dropped off. Backpacks on, let's go. They learn how to be self-sufficient. You've got to cook your own dinner. You've got to set up your own bed. That sleeping bag, that's where you are for the next 7 nights. That plastic, you've got to find that over a bit of rope. I know I shouldn't say rope, but you know what I mean. And then you're going to sleep under that. That's it. And the next morning you're going to get up and you're going to go again. After you've made your breakfast and cleaned up, and away we go. And someone's going to lead, someone's going to tell us which direction we're going in, someone's going to be responsible for other aspects of it. So after we've had the initial, oh, this is horrendous, this sucks, I hate you, you're horrible, you can't make me do this, I'm not a slave, all that stuff. You can't make me move, or I'm just going to take this off, I'm going to run, because every single group think they're the first team that's ever thought of, right, we're just going to sit down, we're not going to move. Or the first team that ever thought of, oh, let's just run. I promise our volunteers have seen it all. So we get them into that sort of norming stage after they've had their forming stage after they've had their storming stage. And then they start to develop some skills that are really useful for when they come back. So the whole idea of, well, let's work together as a team. And if you seem really good at navigating, so if you could do the navigating, that'd be great. And you seem to be really good at getting people to pitch in at dinner time, and you're really good at digging, or whatever the skill that's required is. And before you know it, they're becoming a team. And they start to understand that perhaps at school, if I don't abuse a teacher, or if I don't abuse my parents, or if I don't abuse my mates, my relationships might be a bit better. And for some of them, for too many of them, perhaps if my mum or my dad, if they're at home, didn't abuse me, I'd probably be a bit better off too. So here's the thing. For so many of these young people, what they have at home is horrendous. For example, we had a 14-year-old girl up there last year, and she was noticeably uncomfortable as she was doing the hiking. And one of our volunteers spoke to her and asked her some reasonably personal questions, and it became apparent that never in her life had her parents provided her with underwear. So naturally we were all horrified and sorted that issue out as quickly as possible. But the social circumstances for so many of the young people are horrendous. And of the groups that we take, very few have mum and dad at home. Very few have mum or dad not involved in some behaviours that we would find distasteful. Very few have an understanding of what a family does, what a family looks like. And on too many occasions, I don't want to offend, but on too many occasions, we hear about young kids whose ambition stretches, I hope there's some food in the fridge for dinner, or I hope that no one's going to nick my sand shoes tonight, or I hope my stepfather's not going to rape me tonight. So the young people that we're dealing with are the ones that invariably, and having worked in the homelessness world before, invariably become homeless. That's just a reality of the situation. So what we're trying to do is get them to understand what resilience means, what good decisions look like, and to try and encourage them down a path that is entirely different to what they see around them. So the young bloke who looks as though he's been working out a bit, looks like he's probably on some gear, read steroids, when one of our staff say to him, oh, you're building yourself up for footy or something? And he said, no, Dad got me on the steroids just so, when I worked out, I got some good size so that when I go to prison, I can look after myself. And we said, Dad thinks you're going to prison. Oh, yeah, I'll do something so it means I'll be in prison. So, like my brother, and Dad's done time, and actually Mum's there now. And so that normalising that type of experience, we're trying to say, well, that's not the path you have to go down. You don't need to do that. It's not right. In fact, if you make this decision, you can lead a fulfilling life, have a wonderful family, and one day become a member of the Adelaide Rotary Club. Okay, I was joking about that, but you know what I mean. So we're doing our best off some government funds, of some wonderful support from people like Walshy and others, to create an environment where our 300 volunteers can flourish, where the 500 or so young people that we take up to Yankonina each year can flourish, and the 300 or so that we deal with post-exercise. So these things are called exercises. And the common question I get is, this all sounds really good, David, but what happens when you wave goodbye? And one of the real challenges our volunteers have is when the young people get back on the bus, when the participants get back on the bus to go, there's so many of the volunteers that's, excuse my language, they know they're going back to Shitsville. They know they're going back to an environment where they might not get breakfast. Stepfather might behave in an appropriate way, etc. So we've got a program now that's really solid. We call it Next Step program, where we try and improve young people's employability, just subtly. We don't say to them, we're going to give you some skills that are going to make you more employable, but we say, how about next month you come in and we'll do some kayaking and we'll talk about ambition, or we'll talk about resilience, or we'll talk about the sort of skills you have that might suit a trade. And then how about you come the month after and we'll do some mountain bike riding, and we'll talk about some of these things again, but then we'll also talk about how you present yourself. So we've got our core program up at Yankonina, and we've bolted on this Next Step program to give them a chance, and if they want, and it's totally free, to give them a chance to, all right, well, perhaps if I follow this path, I really can make something of myself. Because, and here's the crunch, because I'm getting, frankly, a little bit frustrated with charities, not like ours, like some others, saying, we need more money to solve the problem. Give us some more money, government, because it's your responsibility, government, and we'll go and solve the problem of this youth running wild in Alice Springs or youth running wild in Port Augusta. No. I say no. Responsibility is with the family. And how about the family take some responsibility and understand that mum, dad, whoever the carer is, you are being seen by young people and your behaviour is being replicated. So don't get angry that kids are running wild in Alice Springs, because what they see at home, they obviously don't want. So that mum and dad are on the grog every night, or worse, that mum and dad are showing no interest in them, that is where the breakdown is, and no amount of money is going to solve that problem. So how about we start working on families, staying as families, and behaving like families? So that responsibility comes down to all of us. It's not government, that's us. So my request of you today, and I know that I wasn't asked to talk about this, but I've, as you can hear, there's a bit of energy around this for me. My request of you today is to have absolute clarity that your behaviour impacts on your children. And I'm guessing, I don't think I'm stretching it by saying 1 or 2 grandchildren. I might be pushing the envelope there, but Jeff will tell me later on whether I pushed that too far, but I think there might be a maybe great, I don't know. Okay, we got there, right? Okay. But the way you behave as a grandparent, those kids see. And in 40 or 50 years, those kids do. Just like the way you parented your children, I promise, you're seeing, I used to do that. I used to read to Johnny on my knee. I used to take my daughter to her softball. And they replicate that. So for these kids, Port Augusta, Alice Springs and other places, we have to understand, they will replicate what they see. So families, be families. The other thing I would ask of you, not only the clarity around the role model stuff, is to listen. The great feedback we get at Operation Flinders from the young people, because we ask for heaps of feedback to prove what we're doing works. The government say to us, prove it. We say, right, we'll prove it all right. Here's the evidence. The great evidence we receive from the young people, the great feedback, we get from the young people is that at Operation Flinders, people listen to us. I go home and no one listens to me at home. I go to school and I get yelled at by the teacher. But I come here to Operation Flinders and I'm with like-minded young people and the adults listen to me. It's the only place I get listened to. So my request would be to spend some time with the younger person in your life. Listen, I know you've got a massive amount of wisdom to share with them. I know you have beautiful success stories, but listen first and then weave that in. That's what I would ask of you. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today, particularly with some magnificent people that have some familiarity with. And Michael, I remain disappointed that you didn't get to be a Blue League player, but perhaps it's not too late. Maybe it's not too late. But thank you very much, Adelaide Rotary Club, for giving me the chance to speak today.